Okay, right now I want to teach you guys about, wow, let's see, there we go. Graphing rational functions. So we did this a little bit earlier during the course of the year, but I could tell by stuff that we've done since then that we've forgotten. And so I have a few days here where I can plug in some small one-day lessons, and I have to choose the stuff that I think will be most helpful for you moving forward. So this is one that we're going to do. And as we graph these shapes, we really need to rely on the parent function graphs. So we'll see if you remember this. Y equals 1 over x. If we were to graph that, it had a vertical asymptote. What number can't you plug in for x? So it had a vertical asymptote at 0, and it also had a horizontal asymptote through 0. And then the graph looks something of this nature. Does that look familiar to you? Okay, and then what happened if we had y equals 1 over x squared? How is that different? When you square something, it's going to become positive. So they were both above the x-axis. Okay? Now, here's something important that you need to keep in mind. If it's odd, it will have that type of shape. It's not powered out of that type of shape. If it's even, it can be x to the fourth, x to the sixth, that's going to have that type of shape. And so we can use that parent function in our minds in order to be able to graph these functions. We can take something that looks fairly difficult, we can actually make it very easy. Y equals 1 over x plus 2. There is a horizontal shift here. What is the horizontal shift? Left, 2. So I'm going to draw this vertical asymptote. I'm going to move it over 2 units to the left. Is there a vertical shift that happens? No. So that's still going to be at y equals 0. So now I have my asymptotes. And now that I know those asymptotes, I can now draw the graph. This is x to the first power, so you will have graphs in those quadrants. My domain will be what? No. There's a number you can't plug in. X cannot be equal to -2. The range. Y cannot be 0. What's different about the second problem? The 2 on the top will only simply stretch it, but the squared, instead of being in opposite quadrants, they will be in adjacent quadrants, won't they? They'll be next to each other. What does the negative do? It's flipped. Since it's on the outside, if it was attached to the x, it would be a horizontal flip, but because it's on the outside, it's a vertical flip. So let's first start with the transformations. What shift is there here? Shift to the right, 3, so I move it over 3. Is there a vertical shift? No, there is not. So I set it up like that. I have y equals 0 still, and I have x equals 3. Since it's squared, it wants to be, again, adjacent, but the negative will flip it over the x-axis, and it will be in these quadrants. So again, you look at something that's like, what does that graph look like? Really not that bad once we have a little bit of knowledge about transformations and parent graphs. What is the domain? And range is a little bit different. Right. Yep, y less than 0 or negative infinity to 0. Very good. How about the next one? Is there a horizontal shift? No, there's not. So I will stay right at 0. X equals 0 for the y-axis. Is there a vertical shift? Up 3. Which one is this going to look like? The first one or the second one? First one. domain, x not equal to 0, range, y can't be 3. Do a couple more together. We got a couple minutes here. Are there any questions on those first three? Is there something that you're confused about how we come up with, or characteristic you're wondering about? Going once, twice, thrice. Okay, we look at this one then. What is the shift? Right, 3. Is there a vertical shift? No, there's not. Power is odd on the bottom. So therefore, they're going to be in opposite quadrants, not adjacent quadrants. Adjacent will be next, so they're going to be opposite. Right, the negative will be a vertical flip. So therefore, you will have it here and there. Does that make sense? So therefore, the domain and range next one, horizontal shift. 3. Vertical shift. 2. Adjacent or opposite? They'll be opposite from one another. And is there a negative? Do I need to count for a reflection at all? No. So we got that. Domain. X not equal to 3, and range y not equal to 2. Okay. What I would like you to do is this is review, right? I put together one page of just problems like this because these are a little bit easier compared to what we're going to see tomorrow. But in previous years when I've dealt with what we're going to do tomorrow, it's kind of been a train wreck. So I anticipate that giving you some easier problems will help tomorrow go very, very well. That's my hope and my anticipation. This is an assignment. I would expect that you'd spend some time working on it this week. Okay. Again, I'll collect your homework when we have our final exams. So.